All right, welcome to tonight's Mayor and Council meeting. Meeting's being broadcast live on Comcast Channel 23 and live streamed via the following links, which are carrollmediacenter.org /Town of Hampstead and facebook.com/Carroll Media Center. So please rise for the opening prayer and the pledge. Dear Lord, we submit ourselves to you as your servants and the servants of the people of Hampstead who placed their trust in us. Please allow every word that is spoken and every action taken to be in the best interest of Hampstead and for everyone gathered here tonight to be a stabilizing influence in these unsettled times. Lord, bless this meeting and our town. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Jim, when you're ready.
Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Painter.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Unglesby.
Here.
And Councilmember Zolman.
Here.
Everybody's present and accounted for. Minutes approvals from the council meeting in March 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Jim, staff report.
Alrighty. Starting with the water system centralization and modernization project. Final set of construction plans and the spec book. They're still under review with MDE. Once the plans and specs are approved, we'll go to bid for the water treatment plant construction contracts. There'll be 2 construction contracts. One will be for the expansion of the North Carroll Farms facility and a new Shiloh plant. And the second contract will be for the construction of the new dairy and the new Hampstead Valley plants. The reason we're breaking into 2 contracts is simply because we've got to meet a certain EPA timeline, and if we did it with one contractor, then we would not be able to do that. We hope to be able to go to bid on this last phase of the project in late April or early May. The bid packages and the contracts for the water main construction and water main inspection services, they're also still being reviewed by MDE. Once they approve them, the bid package will move on to the Board of Public Works for their approval. Also, after a long wait, we have finally received a subrecipient grant agreement for MDE. Town staff, along with our town attorney, we've reviewed the document and submitted our questions and comments to MDE. Our signing of the grant agreement is another requirement that must be obtained prior to receiving BPW approval of the financing. Once we clear those hurdles, we can issue a notice to proceed to our pipeline construction contractor and inspector and hopefully begin the actual water main construction. The final site plan for the water treatment plants was introduced at the March meeting of the Hampstead Planning and Zoning Commission and is under review with Carroll County Development Review. As some of you may have noticed, Dave, the construction of the 6 new homes in the Hampstead Crossing development, formerly known as Melanie Acres, is well underway. A small portion of Dana Avenue has been closed to allow for the construction of the water, the sewer, and the stormwater facilities. We expect the road to reopen shortly. We've also received a building permit application for the first house. We're awaiting payment before we approve it. Actually, we received that payment today. Musselman Contracting is the contractor doing the construction, and so far they've done an excellent job with the project. Preparation of the 2026 budget has begun. Cheryl and I have met to go over expected revenues, along with general government and recreational and cultural expenditures. We also met with Kevin and Toby to discuss public works and water fund revenues and expenditures. All departments will meet later this month to formulate a budget to present to the council at the budget workshop in May. And coming up next month is the town elections. The 2025 town election will be held in Town Hall on Tuesday, May 13th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for 3 members of the council. All terms are for 4 years. If you are a registered voter in Carroll County and live within the incorporated town limits, you are eligible to vote in town elections. Nomination packets for residents that would like to run for office are available at the town office. Candidates must be at least 25 years of age, a registered voter, and have resided within the incorporated limits of the town of Hampstead for at least 1 year immediately preceding the election. Applications to run for council must be turned in by Monday, April 14th, 2025. Less than a week to go.
4:30.
By 4:30. The town of Hampstead is once again pleased to offer 4 $1,000 scholarships to high school students who reside within the town limits and have been accepted into a college or university. The application is available for download at the Town of Hampstead website under News and Announcements. Applications will be accepted through Friday, April 25th, 2025 at 4 p.m. and can be mailed, dropped off to Town Hall, or emailed to Judy Rang at jrang@hampsteadmd.gov.
Including Carroll Community.
Correct.
Just want to put that out there.
Yep. The Hampstead Merchants Association will be holding a legislative update luncheon. This is something they do every year on May 15th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at Greenmount Station. Mayor Nevin, along with one of our state representatives, will inform attendees of all the bills that were passed, new laws that will go into effect as a result of the just completed legislation session, and how they could affect the residents and businesses of Hampstead. Military Banner Program, town's partnering again with the American Legion Post 200 to pay tribute to the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Banners with the military member's photo and branch of service will be displayed on the light posts along Main Street from May through September, honoring their service to our country. Applications and more information can be found on the website hampsteadmd.gov/military banners, or by calling the town office at 410-239-7408. Applications must be turned in by April 15th. And last thing, Hampstead Day. Town staff has been attending Hampstead Day stakeholders meetings monthly since January. This year, Hampstead Day will be held on May 17th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. along Main Street. Main Street will be closed to traffic from Mott Avenue to Rhineman Avenue from 6:30 a.m. to approximately 4 p.m. And that's the same closure, the same footprint that they've had for the last several years. And actually, I do have one more thing, one more item. Just occurred last week, and I think it's appropriate if Kevin addresses this one.
Good evening. So, as most of you know, Toby and myself attend the Maryland Rural Water Conference every spring down in Ocean City to meet with folks and from MDE to get training and all that stuff. So this time was especially exciting in recognition of how promptly and efficient the town of Hampstead, including the mayor and council, town office staff, public works staff, moved to address the PFAS issues in Hampstead, for assembling a team of professional engineers while working in concert with staff to meet the EPA deadlines for the removal of the forever chemicals from our drinking water. Also, for drafting an application to secure funding from EPA and MDE in the amount of $19.5 million. The town of Hampstead was presented the Maryland Rural Water Association Water System of the Year Award for 2025.
Nice. Very beautiful. They've upped their game a little bit. Instead of a plaque, they did a water drop.
So congratulations to everybody. It was a huge group effort to get this far, but our colleagues and are very excited about the plan we've put together, and MDE must be. I don't know who submitted us for the award. They wouldn't say, but it was quite a surprise. So,
Good. Congratulations. Hey, Kev, before you sit down, can you find a way to turn those overhead lights on? I feel like I'm in the dark. Looking out there.
We're in the dark.
Yeah,
They're
we're in the
dark.
light. They're in the dark.
It's like
We're
a
a parting
show.
light.
It's like a Broadway show.
There we go.
There we go.
Much better.
And there was light.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And well done. All right, oversights. Diane.
The Hampstead Farmers Market Advisory Team met last night, April 7th. We now have 15 paid sponsorships with a few more on the way. A total of 37 vendors have signed up for the season. Several of them will be at the market every other week or on selected dates. So on any given Saturday, we will have anywhere from 25 to over 30 vendors present. We welcome.
Sounds like an increase over last year.
I think we keep growing.
Good
We
job.
keep growing. So, so far this year, we have 2 new vendors. One is Chef Dad, and they will be selling a variety of homemade pot pies. In addition to the traditional chicken pot pie, some of his other offerings are cream of crab chicken gumbo, barbecue brisket, Thanksgiving turkey shepherd's pie, and a few vegan options. The other new vendor is a craft vendor with two very different lines of crafts. One craft line is crocheted handbags and decorations for the home. The other, they repurpose pipes and other plumbing materials into bases for table lamps and floor lamps. These materials, combined with wood, mason jars, and other types of glass, make for some very unique lighting creations, so it'll be interesting to see that. The Hampstead Main Street Partnership will be hosting 2 community flea markets in conjunction with the Hampstead Farmers Market. They will be held on our opening day, June 7th, and our closing day, September 27th. Hours for the flea market will be the same as the farmers market, from 8:30 to noon on those 2 days.
Perfect. Good start. Wayne?
Hampstead train station will open on Hampstead Day, May 17th. Looking forward to a good year. Music at the Park will start on June 7th. We had to move it from the second week because of the Matthews Car Show is going to be on the 12th, or on the 14th. So we'll start with Hickory Wind on the 7th, and then Just Us will play later in June. I'm sorry, later in June. Yeah, June. We have Best Regards, Bootleg, Mark Bell Band, Vox 88, and then we're going to close out the season on September 13th with Blue Moon Big Band. So looking forward to that. Tree Commission, we have a tree planting this Saturday over at Westwood Park. This is the money we got from the Chesapeake Grant and the Maryland 5 Million Trees program. We have a lot of volunteers for that, so it looks like it's going to be pretty good. Everything's going to be nice but the weather. I don't know why it is, but every other tree planting seems to be the coldest, wettest day there is in the spring. And then we have another planting coming up a little later in the month where we're going to be planting some bushes over at Hampstead Valley Garden Condominiums, and I'm still working with Smart Energy Professionals on their tree planting. They want to plant some trees, and I'm thinking about planting some more cherry trees up at the park. So I'll be talking to Kevin about the location I want to put them in, make sure it's not going to be a problem.
Might be a little muddy.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be wet.
Okay.
But, you know, at least you don't have to water the trees.
Oh, well, hopefully I'm threatening to put the water moratorium in place, so we'll have a tropical storm come through.
Thanks, boss.
Does that work? Deb?
That's it for me.
Well, as Jim has stated, the Planning and Zoning Commission had the introduction of the PFAS treatment centralization project final site plans. Thanks, Jim. Jason from GMB Engineering was here. We are going to have some new treatment plants being constructed while others are being expanded, and it will take about 2 years for the completion. Carroll County Department of Planning update. MDE is reviewing the fall 2024 Amendment Master Water Sewer Plan. And it was a pretty light meeting.
Okay. Dave?
Okay, so as well, the MML Carroll County chapter is offering 3 $1,000 scholarships to anyone that's in the municipalities of Carroll County. You must live there. I too would like to have those here by the same date, which would be Friday, April 25th at 4:30 p.m. to the town hall or mailed in. Last weekend, the Main Street Partnership, we did our usual monthly cleanup on Main Street. I invite anybody out that wants to get community service hours or just help out. We meet the first Saturday of every month at 9:45 a.m. at the War Memorial Park. We split up into groups and hit both sides of Main Street from track to track. I do have to say that it is getting less and less trash. We started out about maybe 2 years ago, I guess, a year and a half, and we were filling 55 bags, trash bags. Now it's down to half the bags, so it's good that people are keeping their trash contained. And one final thing, the Richards Family Garden, we were able to get a lot of work done over the past couple weeks. We got the wildflowers put in, the rose garden has been cleaned up, and same with our herb garden. And I've got a lot of volunteers that just show up on their own and take these responsibilities on and get it done and call me when it's done. It's really nice, so thank you for their help.
And that date again for Main Street?
The Main Street is it's the first Saturday of every month, 9:45 a.m. at War Memorial It takes about an hour and a half to do it, but the more people will be out faster. And then we usually catch coffee at one of the coffee houses when we're done.
Good. Ben, you got more than just water.
And we have more than just water. I'll start with the water, though. March water usage was 331,000 gallons per day. And April so far, we're at 324,000 gallons per day. Rainfall for March was 2.17 inches, and so far for April is 1.4 inches. So not a lot of rain, which leads into the next one of Hampstead. As a town, we've been upgraded to a severe drought.
Oh, no.
With the wells and stream gauges well below normal levels. Additionally, Public Works has had to make reductions in gallons per minute to several wells. Our water levels are going into spring and summer at the same levels as the 2001 and 2002 drought. But Public Works has this, so far I guess in March they fixed 3 water leaks, and people are still calling and helping with the water leak stoppage. So that's been helpful. The Country Park Drive and Panther Water Tower work has been scheduled as follows. Country Park Drive water line was completed March 31st. Public Works will flush fire hydrants and drain the Panther Water Tower on April 9th. Mid-Atlantic will start the work on the Panther Water Tower April 14th. Minoan Incorporated will perform the washout of the Panther Tower on April 17th. Then Doug the clerk will perform the inspection on the Panther Water Tower after Minoan completes the washout, and the Public Works will start refilling the tower as soon as that inspection is complete. Public Works also replaced 3 3/4-inch water meters that had over 2 million gallons of water on them under the water meter replacement program. Also, 87 missed utility tickets to mark the town's water mains and services were done in March. So good job, everybody, calling to get that done before hitting a water line. And last but not least, Myers Lawn Service cleaned all the storm water inlets throughout the town as of today, and Public Works hauled off 12.7 tons of leaves, trash, and debris from the Carroll County to the Carroll County landfill.
That's just out of the inlets themselves.
Good Lord.
Wow.
How far into the pipe do they get?
As far as they can safely go, and which is not about half of a person's back. But that's where most of it is captured.
How long was that? Was that since the fall, or?
No, they started working on that right after the December snows sort of cleared up, and in between the snow, and that's they come when they can.
Sounds like we need leaf guard.
And that doesn't count all the leaves that were removed off of the streets that would have ended up in the storm. So.
There you go. Boy Scouts, I bet you didn't know we had that, did you? All right. Chief, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. During the month of March, with reference to traffic safety, we investigated 8 accidents. 1 was reportable, 7 minor property damage only, 2 were in the circle. Speed signs were placed at 6 locations for a total of 80 days of display. Traffic enforcement included 6 selective enforcements over a 5-hour period. No citations were issued and 8 warnings were issued. Overall, traffic enforcement included 257 citations and 249 warnings. We conducted 661 property checks. With reference to reported crime, we investigated 1 domestic assault, 3 frauds, 3 incidents of vandalism, 1 disorderly conduct, 2 thefts, 1 attempted commercial burglary, and 1 DUI. Arrests included 1 domestic assault, 1 individual for vandalism and DOP, and 1 for DUI. Traffic-related arrests included 3 unlicensed drivers, 3 uninsured drivers, and 4 suspended drivers. We conducted 35 hours of training, including topics were testifying in court, de-escalation, tourniquets, drug identification and recognition, which included stimulants, hallucinogens, and opioids. And community events included the Robertsfield HOA. We had a visit from the Celebrity School up at the Hampstead Marketplace. They came down to the police department for a morning, and we made an appearance at the Spring Garden Cub Scouts Pinewood Derby. And that would be my report.
Questions for Chief? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, my report. We all attended the Northern News Awards. That was a great event. Mark Schaefer, who is in charge of fundraising for the volunteer fire company in the new facility up there, was honored as the Man of the Year. There were others, including Cole Brown, who were honored. He helped build it, so they were worthy awards, and it was a really well-attended event. I gave out a proclamation to the Snydersburg Homemakers Club, which was kind of neat. So been around 91 years. And while at Snydersburg, a ton of those ladies are from Hampstead, so it was good to see everybody. We also attended a Carroll County Maryland Municipal League meeting in New Windsor, where we thanked Neil Rupp, who's retiring from public service. He's the mayor of New Windsor. He's been in elected office, I don't know, 30-some years now. And we gave him a proclamation signed by all the mayors in the Carroll County, which is only the second time that's ever happened. So good on Neil. His last meeting will be, I think, in May. And then the rest of it is a legislative update. I was sitting back there going through all the notes that I've gotten today of all the different things that happened in Annapolis. The General Assembly basically closed yesterday with sine die at midnight last night. So I just want to go through a few things. I'm not going to read 4 pages of notes, but a lot's been going on down in Annapolis that will affect each one of us in this room. So to some extent or another. So 3,200 bills were introduced this year, which is a record number. That's 1,000 more than last year. And you think about it, there's only 141 delegates and 47 senators. So do the math. So they passed a budget yesterday, $67 billion budget. There's supposed to be $2 billion in cuts in that budget, but there's $1.6 billion in taxes and fees. They initially talked about a 2.5% expansion of a sales tax to a whole bunch of services that it didn't cover. There were, I think, 400 people that showed up for the hearing, 399 of which spoke out against that. And so they ended up with a 3% data and IT tax, and it's not supposed to impact quantum computing or cloud computing or cyber work. They're supposed to be exempt. What's actually covered under the 3% is going to be determined by the comptroller. So more to be determined as they go through it. There's a surcharge on capital gains when you sell stock or whatnot for those making over $350,000, which shouldn't impact that many people in the state. There's 2 new tax brackets for those making over $500,000 a year at 6.25% versus 5.75%, and if you make over $1 million, it's 6.5% versus 5.75%. When Governor O'Malley tried to do this, 3,000 millionaires disappeared from one year to the next. So we'll see what happens as far as what kind of money they're going to raise. They also enabled the counties to raise the piggyback tax from 3.2% to 3.3% is the maximum amount. So that's 0.1% on your income. Basically, they're pushing down a lot of cost onto the counties, one of which is Blueprint. Everybody knows it's this big-ass boulder, pardon my French, this boulder coming at them. And they refuse to address, it's just getting bigger and bigger. Say it's a snowball that started out small, and now it's turning into an avalanche. But they've refused to address pushing it off. So we'll, $1.6 billion in taxes and fees this year. They know that's a finger in the dike in the dam, and so we'll see what happens next year. There was a 20 cents fee added to view land records on the Maryland Archive. So if you go online, they're behind a paywall now, 20 cents a page. So if you've got to look up a deed of trust, they're typically 30 pages long. So that's, something else you got to do. You're going to buy new tires, $5 a tire and a fee. If you're going to re-register your vehicle, they had a doubling of that. They pushed that up. So that happens sooner rather than later. So that's, some of the highlights and lowlights of the budget. Some of the other stuff, you get really into the weeds here, but some of it impacts us. Land use and real property, accessory dwelling units. The state's all about finding more housing because they're so far behind the curve for affordable housing and housing in general, which much of which is tied to the amount of regulations that you incur trying to get a subdivision approved. Some good regs, some bad, some take a long time. Hampstead Overlook would be example A. But it basically requires counties and municipalities to adopt a local law authorizing the development of accessory dwelling units on lands with a single-family detached unit as the primary dwelling. That goes in effect on October 1st. So it'll be interesting to see how many in-law apartments and accessory dwelling units we get applications for. Building energy performance standards, which applies to large, I think it's either 25,000 square feet or 35,000 square feet, one or the other. But they wanted to have an energy use intensity limit. So the more energy you use, there was a limit. You went over that limit, you got penalized. Most of that got struck, which is a good thing. But and it did create additional exemptions for, like, it originally included hospitals, life science, data centers, all that kind of stuff. You could argue data centers should be included given how much energy they consume. But they did not get that through. These energy use intensity limits, Montgomery County currently has them. It grandfathered Montgomery County, but it made it the only county that is allowed to have them. In an extreme example, it's basically forcing everybody to go off of natural gas and onto the grid, right? Just be electric power, and it's kind of hard for that. But some of the biggest co-ops out there, condo associations out there, they would have to pay a fee over $100,000 a year for these energy use intensity limits, and it's multiple times higher than that. And apparently it starts a $100 per building annual fee. There was also a Better Buildings Act, which got killed. So, I'm giving you the good and I guess in other ways good. But the Maryland Building Performance Standards energy conservation requirements, which required an electric and solar ready standard for new buildings and requirement that new buildings and significant improvements meet all laundry, water, and space heating demands of the building without use of fossil fuels, no gas. So you can imagine the demand we're putting onto our electric grid, and we don't have the electricity to meet that demand. Condo associations, so we have several of these in town. They did some things there where there's been, I guess people have discovered over time they're not keeping up with their capital improvements, so they started issuing legislative enactments and laws requiring them. Well, they pushed back, they extended the amount of time they have to complete their initial reserve study. They allowed for updated additional reserves studies to occur. They gave people a financial hardship provision, and they better define what was included in that plan. So I know Jim lives in a condo association, so that requires, all the paving, that's on private land. They got to repave that over time. They've got new roofs they've got to put on. They've got HVAC equipment. Over time, their siding needs to be replaced. Their balconies need to be replaced. So all that goes into the reserve. And what they used to charge for a fee is double, triple?
HOA per month, HOA fees went up approximately $150 a month.
There you go. And
Went from like 150 to over 300.
there you go, doubled. So and then there was some landlord tenant stuff that goes on because we've got a lot of rental units in our town. And it's interesting, in Maryland, it's all about giving the tenant the benefit of the doubt. In some cases, maybe that's okay, but in a lot of cases it's not, particularly as it relates to non-payment. So there was one bill that procedures for failure to pay rent and breach of the lease and a tenant holding over, as introduced, the bill would have required additional notice prior to eviction and required landlord to hold or store the property of the tenant for 10 days after eviction. So that didn't happen, thank God. There were others where it prevented the landlord from reviewing the credit history of the proposed tenant. So, yeah, if you're a landlord, that's one of the first things you want to check. You want to make sure you're getting paid. So, and then, let's see, I'll finish with a couple of other things. There's a rebate that's going to be paid, everybody got nailed with their BG&E bills this year. With this winter, right? So the legislators heard, they heard earful about that. So apparently there's going to be about, on average, an $81 rebate given to you in your bill. And I don't think over 1 month, maybe over a couple of months. But it's coming out of something called the Strategic Energy Replacement Fund. I was listening to BAL this morning with Brian and C4, and they were like, is it 300 million in that, or is it 500 million? Nobody knew what the number was that was in that fund. And I haven't had a chance to look it up. But you're getting $81 out of that per ratepayer. But it's interesting to note that that's a replacement fund that the utilities have paid in over the years to upgrade the infrastructure. So a little yin and yang there. And then the last thing was we have the Climate Solutions Act, which was passed in 2022, which requires us to be off the grid by 2045, and it requires 100% of the cars sold by 2035 to be electric in Maryland. Well, it also required by 2027 that 43% of the cars in Maryland that are sold be electric, and in the following year, 28, 51%. The governor issued an executive order that delayed the initial penalties if car dealers and manufacturers don't meet those goals. I don't know where we are, probably at 20, maybe, not even.
Under
Under
that.
So yes, well under. So you can see there's a lot of conflicting things going on, a lot of timelines that at this point in time need a hard look. And so far, the General Assembly is passing on that. So they're done. There's talk of a special session. I think by the end of September, there's going to be updates on where they are in revenue. The Board of Public Works, which is the governor, controller, the treasurer, can only do so much. If the revenue estimates are down, then they have to bring the General Assembly back in to redo the budget or find additional sources or additional cuts. So, stay tuned as we go. Of course, we knew going in there was a $3.3 billion deficit in the budget. Now they're placing that blame squarely on the federal government, but that really didn't happen until after they had identified the 3.3. I think they've identified another 300 million maybe that's not coming to the state from the feds. And given what the feds are going through, that will continue to happen. So that's my update on the legislative side. And I'll be getting plenty of updates here in the next couple weeks. I've been on the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee. It's been an interesting year to serve, and everybody down there said it was an unprecedented session. So, there you go. Questions?
Thumbs?
What?
You need some Tums?
Yeah. Everybody will. Then the other thing is, it was mentioned we're going to have Arbor Day on this Saturday, April 12th. And so there's an Arbor Day proclamation here. Basically, it was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Trees do reduce erosion and retain our topsoil. Help with wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and they're a renewable resource giving us paper, wood, and other homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Whereas wherever they are planted are a resource of joy and spiritual renewal. And therefore, I, Christopher Nevin, Mayor of the Town of Hampstead, do proclaim October 12, 2025, Arbor Day. April. I keep saying October. I'm not bad. April. Yeah. Arbor Day. So there's your proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
All right. There's no unfinished business. The reappointment of Molly Rose to the Hampstead Tree Commission under new business for a term of 3 years.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Debbie, Dave, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, there's nothing else for us to do tonight.
I have a question. So I was interested, it was interesting to learn at the last MML meeting we had that the National League of Cities is free to us. The MML will pay the fee. And I think it'd be great if the town of Hampstead would look into joining the National League of Cities. They have a lot of programs. And what I remember was reduction in cost for drugs for the citizens of the town, as long as there's not a whole lot of overhead.
The overhead is going to the
No,
events.
but I think we ought to look into it.
Okay.
Pros and cons.
All right, we'll do.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So we have some folks here tonight that I'm going to call on you. I told you would. Ladies, you're first up. If you wouldn't mind saying your names, where you go to school for the public record, and why you came.
I'm Kate Saunders from Manchester Valley, here for our networking assignment for an internship. So basically just come in, listen in on what's going on in town and then reflect on how it's going to affect us and our future.
Okay, then. Do you want to work for the town during the summer?
Right now, we're having an internship at Fuchs, and we're hoping to continue that, and we wanted to see if there was anything that would be happening around here that would impact our job or impact, like how we would move over the summer, especially since as we're getting older, we're going to be joining, like the workforce and, like renters and everything that comes with being an adult.
Yep, adulting. What grade you guys in? Okay, where are you going next year? Are you looking at it?
I'm going to McDaniel. I'm going to UND College Park.
Okay, very good.
Very good.
Well, thanks for coming. Hopefully you've learned a few things. All right, guys from the Boy Scout troop. Now you got to stand up, introduce yourselves. Troop 9 from Upperco.
Oh, very nice.
Don't be shy. We won't bite.
I'm Mason Hollingsworth.
I'm Will Skull.
Carter I go to North Carroll Middle.
I go to Shiloh.
All right. And what stood out tonight? What did you pick up?
A lot about water.
Yep. Constantly.
There's a lot about water. That's pretty much what I put.
Trash, like, has been increasing.
For litter. Very good. All right, gentlemen. What's the merit badge you're earning tonight?
Citizenship.
Very
Nice.
good. How many have you earned so far?
I think 12.
And how many need to get the Eagle?
What do you want?
21 up, just what I'm hearing up here. Okay. Is that the goal at some point, maybe? Good. All right. Congratulations. Thanks for coming. Any of the adults in the room have a question? All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait a minute, Marlene.
Oh, hi, Marlene. I didn't see you back there.
Bad Penny is back. Marlene Delph, Boxford Drive. Just curious, is there any update on the MPRP project?
Oh, yeah.
With all the talk about electricity.
Yeah, that was one of the notes that I didn't read. There were, I don't know, a half dozen plus bills introduced for MPRP. None of them got out of committee. So it is going to be before,
PSC.
yeah, Public Service Commission, PSC, is the next step for that. And then, sure, you know, the opposition has been very clear, and I think it's been pretty well organized. We're obviously feel for the people who are being impacted by that because, you know, a couple of the options had lines running right through our town. So we'll see how that continues forward. But for whatever reason, none of those bills went out of committee, and they were both Republicans and Democrats sponsoring them. Mostly Baltimore County sponsorship, and I guess the rest of the state didn't see the need to advance any of those bills.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Now we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, one and all. Do you get this, Wayne, or does it?
Yeah, I read it, did the thing, but thank you.